Hello everybody, what's gear to you, and welcome to the finale of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Throughout this Let's Play, we have been exploring the land of Hyrule, and at some point we decided enough is enough. We don't want to explore anymore, we just want to go straight to the end game. Gotta figure out some kind of intro that can work for any point in this Let's Play because of the fact that you can go to the finale at any point you want during this Let's Play. But anyway, in today's episode, we're going to be dropping everything that we're going to be doing, and we're going to go straight for Ganon. So, a few things I'd like to mention before we get started this time around. I recorded this at the earliest point that I feel would be comfortable to go for Ganon, but I also kind of recorded this at the point where if I went any further, then this whole video would kind of be ruined for reasons I'll explain in a little bit later. But if you want to know exactly when this video was recorded, I'm trying to be as vague as humanly possible in case you want to avoid spoilers. I'm recording this between the recording sessions where we went to the Akala Research Tech Lab and the recording session where we went back to Kakariko Village for side quests. So I'd like you to know that even though we only have 3 heart containers right now, all of those stamina vessels were exchanged for spirit vessels, so we're going to have a little bit more stamina than we usually would if we were to go straight off the Great Plateau and head straight for Ganon at the beginning of the game. We also have a few more weapon slots than we should at the very beginning of the game, just letting you know. So a few things that you might want to do before you go straight for Ganon. First of all, you want to make sure that you're good at doing the shield bouncing attack, because that is going to be pretty important for taking care of the Guardians all across Hyrule Castle. In this video, we're not going to be giving you a direct route for Ganon because there's just so many. Hyrule Castle is truly a massive place to the point where it's going to be giving its own dedicated video at some point during the Let's Play. So, for this video, it's only going to be giving you a bit of a reference point for what I recommend you do before you actually go for Ganon himself. So, one of the important things that you really need to do, you need to get good weapons. Thankfully, Hyrule Castle is filled with them, so my word of advice is to find a THUNDERBLIGHT first, because if you use a THUNDERBLIGHT against an enemy, they will more often than not drop their weapon, so you can go pick up their powerful Hyrule Castle epic weapon without you having to actually defeat them. This can make it so much faster to get through this area, and it can also save you a lot of headaches if you're struggling with these enemies. You also want to get the Hylian Shield. Now how you get that is that you can go inside the dungeons of Hyrule Castle, and when you go across this specific area, you'll come across a Stalfos Hinox thing. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, and I'm not actually looking at the game footage when I'm recording this video because of reasons. So you want to defeat this enemy, and my word of advice is to make sure that you have Stasis Plus before you do this, because you can use this to freeze the Stalnox, that's what it's called. You want to freeze the Stalnox so that it will be easier to attack the eyeball, but once it's defeated, you will be given access to your sweet, sweet reward, the Hylian Shield. The Hylian Shield is probably the most powerful shield in the entire game. However, it's not completely indestructible. It will break after a long time, so you definitely want to be careful using this one. If it breaks, don't worry, there are shield merchants across Hyrule who will give you a replacement, although it's going to be very expensive to do this. As far as I know, you can only have one Hylian shield at a time, so don't think you can have like a full inventory of only Hylian shields or anything like that. Another word of advice I can recommend is that For the ending we're going to be getting in this video, you're going to want to go for Ganon before you take care of any divine beasts. What I recommend you do is that I recommend you get 13 heart containers and then head for the Korok Forest. I won't explain why in this video, but if you already know what I'm talking about, then you pretty much already know what I'm talking about. That was a repetitive sentence that I hope somebody understands. Another thing that I can recommend you do is make sure you have a lot of food, and make sure you have a lot of fairies as well. Now, fairies are going to be a little bit hard to come by if you're only going straight for Ganon, so one good place that I can recommend you find them is the Great Fairy Fountain at Kakariko Village. There's usually always going to be some there, but they won't spawn if you have more than 2 fairies. You can also find fairies randomly in the grass if you cut it, but it might take a while for you to actually get that. And with all of our preparations taken care of, there's only one more thing left for us to do. To be completely honest, this is a bit of a weird one to start off with because, personally speaking, I consider this one the second most difficult of the Calamity Ganon forms. But this is WINDBLIGHT Ganon, that's hard to say. So, my word of advice for this is have a two-handed weapon, because when he's going to be attacking, he's going to spawn a tornado that's going to attack you, and if you follow the pattern that I'm doing right now, more often than not, you should be able to get out of the way of the tornado, although it's going to take some practice and muscle memory to really get the pattern down, so you definitely want to be careful about that. Two-handed weapons are going to be your best friend for taking care of Calamity Ganon this early on in the game. So you definitely want to make sure you find a bunch of those. Thankfully, there are plenty of them scattered all across Hyrule Castle. So even if you're going straight from the Great Plateau, then you shouldn't have too much trouble finding these weapons. Aww, WINDBLIGHT Ganon now has friends. So, these turret things, I honestly don't really see them used that often. They just seem to be more of a nuisance. Now, they're obviously a lot more difficult to deal with in the actual Divine Beast you find this enemy in, but here, they don't really seem like they contribute much to the fight. So, you definitely want to keep an eye out on them, though, because they will fire random shots whenever WINDBLIGHT Ganon tells them to, and it can be a little bit harder to avoid if you're not paying attention. So, what we want to do during this phase of the fight is, I recommend you go to the higher part of this chamber, and do this epic slow motion attack, and fire a couple arrows straight into Calamity Ganon's face. Because doing that, if you do enough arrows, they should be able to stun him. Keep in mind, though, that Calamity Ganon will put up a fight, so one arrow usually isn't enough to knock him down. But if you have ancient arrows or anything like that, they usually are. I just don't have a lot of them right now, and I'm saving them for a little bit later in the fight. So just keep using your bow and arrow to fight him, or you could also try the tried and true formula of using the spinning attack when he's summoning the tornadoes, although because he summons 2 of them during the second phase of the fight, it's a little bit harder to avoid. When your weapon is almost broken, it's a good idea to throw them at WINDBLIGHT Ganon so that you'll be able to get the extra damage. And I am so glad that that counted, because if it was just like a pixel later, we would have definitely taken damage right there. Scourge Divine Beast Varuta, WATERBLIGHT Ganon. These are really hard to say, wow. This is easily the most easy of the Calamity Ganon forms. So, during this phase of the fight, he will be using a spear against you. Now, the window of opportunity for actually dodging out of the way is very forgiving, so you shouldn't have any trouble with that, but you don't want to do the spinning attack like what we did with WINDBLIGHT Ganon. Because if we try doing that for WATERBLIGHT, he's going to do an attack where he'll summon a ring around him that will do a lot of damage very quickly, and you definitely don't want that. So instead, do this where you dodge out of the way. That's definitely going to be the method of choice. Whenever you're doing the spinning attack like this, I recommend you try to have yourself positioned at a point where you can attack several spots on the body at once. So if he's curled up into a curl form thingy like it was a moment ago, then try to have yourself in the center of his body, if that makes any sense. The great Frost Blade has now broken, and now we're using whatever this weapon was. I didn't get a chance to read it. And now it's time for round 2. So during this phase of the battle, WATERBLIGHT Ganon is going to be teleporting between this area and the higher staircase area. When he's doing that attack right there, honestly, it's just better to just dodge out of the way, because even if you do the slow motion attack, there's still a chance that the spear will still attack you, and that's not a very pleasant experience at all, so I recommend you just run away from that. So, personally, I think it's easier to deal with him when he's at the entrance area away from the staircase, so not where he is right now. Because if you do stun him, there's a chance that he'll stay on the top part of the staircase, which can make it a little bit harder to get to him. So if he does get stuck up there, then I recommend you use bomb arrows or something like that, because even if you miss, you're still going to be dealing damage to him. If you're at a point where I was right there, then that seems like the good sweet spot to be able to knock him down so that he's not on the higher area, and you can get back over to him quickly. And now he has like a pixel of health left, so let's finish him off. Scourge of Divine Beast Valradunia, FIREBLIGHT Ganon. Now, this one I honestly go back and forth over whether or not I consider this one the second easiest one. Because the first phase is, actually the entire thing is pretty easy. So yeah, I guess this would be the second easiest one. So the only real struggle you're going to be having with this one is the attacks where he swings horizontally like that. When he's charging up an attack like that, he's going to be spinning around several times, and you'll be attacking 3 times. So you definitely want to avoid that. When he's attacking the other way, though, he's only going to be swinging the sword once, but when he's striking vertically, then what I personally like doing is I like using that opportunity to do the spinning attack rather than trying to dodge out of the way. This Ganon's on fire, fire, fire. This Ganon's on fire. So, during this phase of the battle, what I recommend you do is make sure you have the bomb runes available. So, that right there, that will instantly blow him up, and that's going to be pretty fun, because we like explosives, apparently. We are pyromaniacs on this channel, after all. So, he's only going to be doing that attack once if he doesn't actually let the attack happen. So, there are 2 methods that I can recommend for stunning Ganon right here. So the first strategy is the one that you just saw, where we use 1 bomb to stun him, and the second one to knock him down. When he's knocked down, you can use a spinning attack to finish him off, although he will eventually get back on his... Well, he doesn't actually have any feet right now, so I would say get back on his feet, but FIREBLIGHT Ganon doesn't have feet, so I know what I'm trying to say. The other strategy that I recommend is you can also have a bow and arrow. The regular arrow will be enough to stun him, and then you can use a bomb arrow to knock him down. Personally, though, bomb arrow, I prefer using the bomb runes for this, because bomb arrows are very expensive and it's easy to miss them. So I think a bomb rune is a much safer bet. This is easily the enemy that I struggle with the most in this game. Now, normally I don't mind this one, because in the actual Divine Beast you fight him in, it's a really cool fight. But I hate fighting him here, and you wanna know why? It's because this video took 5 weeks to record because of this guy! So, this is a really difficult boss fight, and I'm not gonna be one of those people that's all like, oh, it's difficult, so it's obviously bad game design, or anything like that. No, this is a very well-made boss fight. So, why am I paused for so long? So this is a very well-made boss fight, but one thing that I really don't like is that THUNDERBLIGHT Ganon is the very last one of the 4 Calamity Ganon phases that you fight during the first half of this boss fight. So, if you die during this, which is very easy to happen, if you die during this, you have to repeat the other 3 bosses again. And that's probably how I got so good at fighting the other Calamity Ganon forms. But I am awful at fighting THUNDERBLIGHT Ganon, so yeah, we're gonna see me struggle a little bit with this one. So basically the strategy they want to use for fighting THUNDERBLIGHT Ganon is not getting stunned like a moron right there. So normally I would try resetting the battle, because when I was first trying to record this video, I was trying to make it as far as I possibly could before I ran out of the yellow heart. I got that yellow heart from staying at it in with the soft bed. But over time I just grew tired of resetting the boss fight, so yeah, that's a bit of a fun story. So he'll be doing an attack like that where he'll be dashing around the battlefield very quickly. Now, I usually find that when he does the third dash maneuver, that's usually the time to do the jumping move. But I don't know what it is, because I'm usually really good at this boss fight, at least in the Divine Beast form. But for whatever reason, here, when I'm trying to record it for you people, it's just not working. So I might end up jumping ahead to when it actually does work. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to be editing this video quite yet. But yeah, if you're wondering why nothing's happening, that's the reason why, because this boss fight is kind of evil. That works too. So if you're having a hard time with the jumping out of the way method, you can also use a shield bash as well. It's also pretty hard to pull off, and it's not very pleasant, because sometimes you also do attacks like that where he spins, which can also really eat up your heart. That's one thing that I really don't like about this boss fight, is that he does so much damage. And there's very rarely times where you even have a chance to get back on your feet before you even attacks again. Like that right there! We literally just barely got back on our feet. We didn't even get a chance to get out of the way. So I'm sure speedrunners out there are just laughing at the gameplay right now. It's like, oh, you're taking you a few minutes to beat this thing. We would have already beaten the game by this point. I do have a lot of respect for speedrunners. I'm not trying to make fun of anybody or anything like that. And I gotta say, speedrunning in Breath of the Wild is really impressive. Because, like, how in the world do you do that kind of stuff? Second verse, same as the first, except it's worse. That's gotta be one of the dumbest things I've ever said. But anyway, during this phase of the battle, similar to FIREBLIGHT Ganon, he's gonna be given an additional attack that you'll only need to ever do once if you're able to successfully counter it. So, yeah, and we end up wasting a fairy, which I was really hoping to be able to save for the second half of this boss fight. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So, during this phase of the boss fight, his sword is going to be electrocuted, which means if he attacks you, not only does he deal more damage than usual, you're also going to be dropping your weapon more often than not. So, that's not going to be a very pleasant experience at all. And, like I said earlier, he's going to be comboing you a lot. So, get used to fighting this stupid guy, because you might be here for a while, like I was, because as I mentioned, it took 5 weeks to record this stupid boss. on, we can do this, we can do this! And he's a pixel of health away, so that means we're gonna struggle with the rest of this, aren't we? So, hopefully we'll be able to do the shield bash. Yeah, we did it! But he's still a pixel health away, and he's barely out of range for the sword, and we didn't have any more ancient arrows. This was the part of the boss that I was hoping to save the ancient arrows for, because they're honestly not that useful against the actual second half of this boss fight or anything like that. But personally speaking, I like having them at this point. Where was I going with that? I kind of forgot what I was saying halfway through that narration.
Link. I'm sorry, but my power isn't strong enough. I can't hold it.
The final battle has begun, and I need hearts! So this is the biggest reason why I saved up on making a bunch of meals like that will give us additional hearts and things like that, because it's probably a good idea to not die during this, because just like the first half of this boss fight, no checkpoints are in sight, so, and you can't even save your game in here. So, if you die at any point during this, you have to restart the entire thing. And that's just rude. Alright, so this is a Calamity Ganon. So basically how this is going to work is, what we want to do is that you're going to want to use our shield bashing attack against him whenever he's doing the laser attack. As far as I know, this is pretty much the only way that you can stun him, and I'm sure there's probably a few other ways you could attack him as well. Like, I'm pretty sure when he does the flame sword attack thing, I'm pretty sure when he does that, you can jump out of the way, but it's a little hard to do, so I don't recommend it. And pretty much every form of the Thunderblight, WaterBlight, etc., pretty much all of those special attacks are going to have some kind of reappearance during this. So, like I saw a moment ago, we saw that he was able to use the ice blocks, but he'll also be able to use things like FIREBLIGHT Ganon's explosive fireball of explosiveness, and THUNDERBLIGHT Ganon's electrical attacks. So this is basically how you're going to be dealing with Calamity Ganon, is that you're going to run away for a little bit, and if you're at a certain point out of range, after he does an attack, then he will follow it up with a laser beam attack. So definitely be careful with this, because you definitely want to be careful with that, though, because if your timing is off, then you're going to be taking a lot of damage. So it seems like bomb arrows are going to be the weapon of choice. So for when Calamity Ganon is going to be climbing the walls over there. So this is the point of the boss fight where I personally save my bomb arrows. And these tornadoes, I believe they also do a lot more damage than WINDBLIGHT Ganon's tornadoes as well. And he also tried doing an additional attack right there where he fired some random gust of wind of doom and destruction and death. So one thing that's definitely worth mentioning about Calamity Ganon is that the laser attack itself will actually come out a little bit faster than a regular Guardian. So if you're really used to the timing of a Guardian laser beam, then you might be thrown off a little bit because Calamity Ganon fires his laser sooner. So one thing that you definitely want to be careful of is if he does the fire attacks where there's going to be little fire puddles everywhere and you try doing a slow motion attack, but there's a fire trail right in front of you, don't start the attack. It's going to be worth it later. Just save up on energy right now, because if you try doing that right now, then it's going to not be a very pleasant experience. And I believe that was our last fairy, so we're kind of not in a good place right now. So as we continue on fighting Calamity Ganon, I would like to explain the story of trying to record this video. So I'm going to try my best to avoid spoilers or anything like that, because for all I know, you're literally coming here straight from the Great Plateau or anything like that, so I'm going to try to keep spoilers to a minimum. But basically, the point in time that I'm recording this video, this was literally the point of no return for trying to record this video. Because if I went any further into the main series, then it would be kind of a nightmare to backtrack later and record this video at a later point. Because if I try doing that later, that means having to start a new playthrough and getting up to a point in the game where I'm confident that I can take care of Calamity Ganon, when in all reality, the point at time where I was at in the game right now, honestly, it felt like the best opportunity to face Calamity Ganon for this video. Now, like I said earlier in this video, the exact time frame that I'm recording this at, I'm in between the recording sessions where I go for the Akali Research Tech Lab and the Kakariko Village side quest. If I went any further into the story, pretty soon I'm going to be recording a Divine Beast. So if I went for that one right now, that would mean that one of the Calamity Ganon bosses at the very beginning of the boss gauntlet for this wouldn't show up. Because the thing about this is that if you defeat a Divine Beast on the overworld, then that Divine Beast's form of Calamity Ganon will not appear during this final boss. So, for example, if you took care of all of them, then this final boss starts off immediately with you going straight to this part of the battle instead. So, if I were to continue onward with recording a Divine Beast, then that would mean either the WATERBLIGHT or the FIREBLIGHT forms of Ganon wouldn't appear during this video. So that was literally the point where I couldn't record anything beyond what I already had done. This actually caused a bit of a delay, because episodes 17 and 18 were nowhere near done editing by the time that I was trying to upload them. And the thing is, not only were they not nearly done, but if I were to upload them, there would still be a delay, because I only had one video recorded beyond that point, and I always upload 2 videos every week for every Let's Play. And now he's super shiny! This isn't even his final form! So, yeah, this is brutal. Basically, all of your attacks are going to be not effective at all against him, unless you do the super amazing strategies of shield bashing the laser back at his stupid face. You think at this point he would learn not to do that, but apparently Calamity Ganon never learns. But we continue using the shield bashing attack, and then we'll be able to attack him. So, yeah, that's basically the whole story of trying to record this video, is that there's really no way that I could continue recording the main series until I got this done. And like I said, it took 5 weeks to finish recording this video. Not just all the prep work, but all the failed attempts that it took to record this footage. Yeah, it took a lot of failed attempts. Like, the thing is, before this point, I definitely had recording sessions that took a little bit longer than expected, but the most trouble that I had recording a single video was Mummy Maze Forever from Captain Treasure Tracker. That only took about 2 weeks or so, off and on. I didn't try recording like every single day, but this one, I was trying to record pretty much every single day, and it still took 5 weeks. So, yeah. The King of Hyrule was certainly not joking when he said that it's not advised to go straight for Hyrule Castle. But if you have skills like me, and lots of perseverance, then you should be fine. So there's honestly not that much else to this boss fight. It's basically the same thing as it was before, but the thing is that because he's now all shiny and red and evilly is not a word, but because he's super shiny and red and things like that, he's now going to have a lot more power to his attacks. So what was previously going to be an attack that would give us just an inch of life left if we had 3 hearts, it's basically going to be instant kill if we didn't have any of the yellow hearts right now. So this is the biggest reason why I recommend you bring a bunch of yellow heart recipes with you before you come into this place. Because if you don't, then you're going to be pretty much stuck with 3 hearts this entire time. Unless you're, you know, smart and went out of your way to get shrines and got a bunch of heart containers. So at this point in the boss fight, I've been talking pretty much the entire time, so I think I would like to take this time to really appreciate the music of this boss fight. So I'm going to shut up so you can listen to it. Breath of the Wild is certainly a game that's definitely been heavily criticized for not having the same style of music as the previous Zelda games, and I can certainly agree with this criticism for the most part, but I gotta say, this final boss music, it may not be the final boss music from something like Xenoblade Chronicles or Skyward Sword or something like that, but oh man, this certainly does set the tone for just how epic this final boss is. So I think this video was a great direction for the music to go, at least in terms of the final boss for this. Now, would I preferred it to be something a little bit more memorable? Yeah, certainly. But I would be lying if I said I didn't think this was like one of the best final boss songs in the entire Zelda series. Now, obviously, there's a lot of really great ones out there, like Link Between Worlds or Skyward Sword or Hyrule Warriors and things like that. But when this game has good music, it has amazing music. Alright, so it looks like we're going to be almost done with Calamity GANON, hopefully at some point, maybe sort of, kind of, perhaps. So one thing that I would like to say is that, and this is going to be kind of a bit of a random shout out, but one video that I absolutely love about the final boss for this game. Now, I'm going to have his username on screen because I got it wrong one time when I was trying to verbally talk about this channel, and I don't want to make the same mistake again, but I always get this guy's channel mixed up with somebody else. But anyway, the video that I'm talking about specifically is this one where this guy was trying to see if it's possible to bring a cuckoo into the Calamity GANON boss fight, or if it's possible to defeat him with a mop. Now, unfortunately, even if you have a full inventory of mobs, with everything possible, and even if they all have damage up abilities, and even if they're all inflamed when you're damaging Calamity GANON, it's not quite enough to finish them off, so unfortunately you cannot defeat Calamity GANON with a mop alone. But none of that matters right now, because we defeated Calamity GANON. And also, if you bring Cuckoo into this boss fight, it just disappears during the cutscene, which is a little unfortunate.
Ganon was born out of a dark past. He is a pure embodiment of the ancient evil that is reborn time and time again. He has given up on reincarnation and assumed his pure, enraged form. If set free upon our world, the destruction will be unlike anything ever seen before. I entrust you with the bow of light, a powerful weapon in the face of evil. Link, you may not yet be at a point where you have fully recovered your power, or all of your memories. But courage need not be remembered, for it is never forgotten.
Bow of Light! Princess Zelda gave you this bow and arrow to battle the dark beast Ganon. When wielded by the hero, it fires something that I did get a chance to finish reading because past me wasn't courteous enough to give me time to do that. So, this is the final boss of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I gotta be completely honest with you. You may want to turn down your volume for this one. This is the coolest final boss in the Legend of Zelda series ever! This is so awesome! This is my absolute favorite final boss in Zelda history! I don't care what anybody says. It might be a little bit on the easy side compared to what we've seen before. I don't care. This is amazing! This is exactly what I was hoping we'd see for the final boss of Zelda U all those years back when we first saw this game in motion. This is just all kinds of awesome! And I was so blown away by how awesome this boss fight is that I didn't realize that I forgot to actually equip the Bow of Light. So, yeah, the arrows aren't actually going to do anything until you switch your arrows, or you switch your bow. So that's something that you definitely want to keep in mind because I forgot to do that. So basically, how this final boss works is that you're going to be on horseback this entire time, assuming of course you have a horse. If your horse dies at any point, then you shouldn't worry too much because the game is courteous enough to give you enough time to run across this area. Although you're a lot more vulnerable if you're running around because Dark Beast Ganon is massive. So yeah, you definitely want to be careful about this, and if I remember correctly, if you try wandering away too far from this final boss, then it's going to try to turn you back around to go back and fight him, which is a little bit on the unfortunate side. But something really cool is the fact that in this game's programming, the entirety of Hyrule Field is loaded out once. It's just that things like buildings or blades of grass or trees or things like that, those are loaded in to get closer. The entire field itself, though, that's fully rendered at all times, so when you're outside. That is also the case for this boss fight as well, so if you're able to hack the game or anything like that, then you can see some funny things like seeing Dark Beast Ganon continue rampaging on even from a distance. It's pretty hilarious. So, this is basically the strategy that we're going to be using for fighting Dark Beast Ganon. There's going to be little circly triangle thingies everywhere, and we're going to want to use the Bow of Light to attack that. So that's basically the method of attack that you want to use for this. Now, you definitely don't want to be careless during this. It is certainly an easy boss fight, don't get me wrong, but you definitely don't want to be careless because Dark Beast Ganon is pretty massive, so he's going to be walking around and stomping everywhere, so if you're not paying attention, then you can very easily get trampled. He also has a fire laser beam attack thing, so you definitely want to be careful about that. The safest place to fight him is definitely on the side and the back. You do not want to be directly in front of Dark Beast Ganon. That's where you're going to be the most vulnerable at, so definitely try to stay to the side if you can. Another word of advice I can recommend is before you come into Hyrule Castle, try to make sure that you have a horse that's very good with stamina and things like that. For those of you who are watching this Let's Play and you're about beyond level, and you're about beyond episodes 7 or 8 or 9 or something like that, you may recognize that fact that we have two horses, Waffles and Raisin. I'm using Waffles right now because Raisin actually died when I was trying to record this footage. So yeah, Waffles was the only horse I had at this time, although Raisin does have an extra thing of stamina, so that would have been a lot more useful during this boss fight.
I've been keeping watch over you all this time. I've witnessed your struggles to return to us, as well as your trials in battle. I always thought, no, I always believed that you would find a way to defeat Ganon. I never lost faith in you over these many years. Thank you, Link. The hero of Hyrule. May I ask, do you really remember me?
And that was Lady Gertie's Let's Play of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Not even close! It seems like that's a running trend through a lot of my Let's Plays recently. So, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This Let's Play is going to have two finales. The first one is the one that you just saw, where we go straight for Calamity Ganon. The second finale is going to be what's going to happen to the final boss and the game's ending if you go for the end game after meeting certain requirements. So this is going to be like basically the bare minimum finale, And the grand finale of this Let's Play at the very end of the series will be the 100% completion ending. So, with all that in mind, it is way too early to go into thoughts on the project, nor is it... And it's also too early to talk about plans for the future. So, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the final boss. So something interesting about the Calamity Ganon battle itself is that during the beginning, Zelda says that Calamity Ganon has given up on resurrection and has assumed his true form. In the Japanese version, however, this is different, because in the Japanese version, Zelda says that after years and years of resurrections and things like that, Ganon's power has gotten so out of control, and that's his form now. So it's kind of interesting how the different localization teams of this game went with different interpretations of what Calamity Ganon is supposed to be. And another thing, and I've been holding this one in for a long time. So, in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Zelda is based off her A Link to the Past design rather than Breath of the Wild, and I was really hoping they'd use her Breath of the Wild version for Smash. Masahiro Sakurai, I gotta say, he's a game developer who's probably one of the most respected in the field, and he's one of my personal favorite game developers of all time. He does amazing work on the Smash Bros. Series. His reasoning for Breath of the Wild Zelda not being in Smash is just plain stupid. So, he says, and I quote, "Zelda's more into research than fighting, which is why A Link to the Past Zelda is the one who's in Smash." Did you not see the ending of this game? Zelda is the one who defeats Calamity Ganon in the end! And even if she is more into research than fighting, who cares? Isabelle from Animal Crossing and the Wii Fit trainer, they're in Smash too! But I guess they're more into fighting than, oh, I don't know, literally anything they actually do in their games, but no. Breath of the Wild Zelda, she can't be in Smash because she's more into research than fighting. Personally speaking, I think the more likely reason why this version of Zelda wasn't in Smash is because the design of Zelda herself wasn't finalized until late in development. Now, Masahiro Sakurai has said that he did see an early build of the game where he did get to see Zelda, and that's when he decided not to include this version of Smash, but still, his reason for this version of Zelda not being in Smash just does not make any sense at all. I really hope they have some kind of alternate costume DLC later down the line, or have like some kind of newcomer fighter where it's this version of Zelda as a separate fighter. I would love that. I just really want this version of Zelda in Smash Bros. She's playable in Hyrule Warrior, so why can't she be in Smash? But that's basically everything they have to say about this video right now. So stay tuned to the channel for more goodness on The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. At the time that I'm recording this video, I'm not quite sure where this is at the playlist. My mindset is that this is going to be done before we take care of Too Many Divine Beasts or anything like that. But I'm not quite sure where this is going to be exactly in terms of the playlist order or anything like that. But what I will say is thank you all so much for watching this episode of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Stay tuned for more Breath of the Wild goodness, including the grand finale, where we really end off this game forever. So thank you all so much for watching this video, and until next time, later gear to you. This part right here is totally Lord of the Rings.